because she's a woman.
No, her pregnancy bump, about whether it was real or whether it was fake and all those conspiracies.
What's misogynist about that?
Well, questioning someone's bump, whether it's real.
You can question
so
everything when somebody puts out a video like that. You can do what the hell you like.
If you don't tell the truth, you will lose everything, you liar. An employee who attended a private meeting at Clarence House recounted these exact words spoken by King Charles during the recent closed-door session. In that meeting, Meghan was asked to provide medical records, original photos from the delivery room, or any verified evidence proving she had actually been pregnant and had given birth to Archie, the firstborn son she shares with Prince Harry. But instead of responding with the requested documentation, Meghan reportedly became furious, screamed in anger, and stormed out of the meeting in an extremely agitated state. Not a single person in the room was convinced. No explanation was offered, and that precisely triggered a wave of outrage within the royal household, leading to a decision to impose a punitive ultimatum on Meghan. The royal family has temporarily suspended all support granted to her and her children, including media protection and financial assistance, until every lingering question is fully clarified. A question now silently lingers in everyone's mind, though no one dares to voice it aloud. If she truly experienced motherhood, then why can't she present clear, tangible proof? And if even something that simple cannot be substantiated, then what truly does Meghan have left to hold on to? When the royal family no longer remains silent. For years, the British royal family has upheld its golden rule, never complain, never explain. But this time, that silence has officially been broken. And the one who shook that long-standing tradition is none other than Meghan Markle. A closed-door meeting was recently held within the high-security zone of Buckingham Palace, where media access was strictly restricted. Attendees included key figures of the royal household, King Charles III, Prince William, and several trusted advisors. No images were leaked, no official press release was issued. But according to an inside source, the meeting had nothing to do with politics or royal responsibilities. It revolved entirely around one child, and one woman unable to produce clear proof that she had ever given birth to that child. That woman was Meghan, the same Meghan who was publicly celebrated as a new mother in 2019 when the royal family welcomed the arrival of Archie Mountbatten Windsor. Yet what puzzled many was the total absence of any hospital photos. No medical staff ever came forward to confirm the birth. There were no public records released, contrary to royal traditions. The entire event was encapsulated in a single staged photograph taken at Windsor Castle showing a baby wrapped tightly in a white blanket, conveying more distance and obscurity than warmth or intimacy. And now, as scandal swells like a fierce tide, those details from years ago have resurfaced, becoming the epicenter of the most intense standoff between Meghan and the rest of the royal family. The same source revealed that during the meeting, Meghan was requested to submit medical documentation validating her childbirth. This included a birth certificate listing her as the legal mother, hospital admission records, ultrasound scans, and photographs taken at the hospital. These are documents that any ordinary mother could reasonably keep and present if necessary. However, instead of providing specific paperwork, Meghan reacted emotionally. She raised her voice in protest, claiming that such a demand was an outright invasion of her personal privacy. She declared that forcing her to prove she had given birth was both offensive and discriminatory. But the most bewildering part, as noted by those present in the room, was this: not a single person could confirm that Meghan had ever simply stated the words, "I gave birth to Archie." There was no denial, but equally there was no affirmation. What Meghan brought to the table was only anger, not a clear, definitive answer. That very ambiguity compelled King Charles, long considered the most patient and lenient toward Meghan, to take an unprecedented step, suspending all financial support allocated to her and freezing all activities involving her under the royal banner. One senior advisor described it not as punishment, but as a risk management measure, a safeguard against reputational damage, financial uncertainty, and most critically, a collapse of public trust. Because if the very existence of a celebrated royal family member cannot be transparently verified, then the integrity and legitimacy of the monarchy itself are called into question. Meghan's subsequent response drew further attention. According to several American media outlets, she abruptly withdrew from multiple pre-scheduled charitable events. Her usual inspirational posts on social media suddenly disappeared. Sources within Netflix disclosed that Meghan had unexpectedly paused all ongoing personal projects. And while her legal representatives declined to make any comment, observers noted one undeniable fact: for the first time, Meghan was caught in a storm where the media was no longer on her side. Many experts in the media industry observed that Meghan had previously demonstrated a remarkable ability to turn pressure into a weapon of counterattack. When accused of bullying staff, she recounted her experiences of discrimination. When questioned about her loyalty, she spoke of psychological stress and dark thoughts. But this time, her silence has stretched on unusually long. And when someone who once dominated the narrative with powerful words and perfectly curated imagery suddenly chooses not to speak, there are only two possibilities: either she's no longer in control, or she truly has nothing left to say. The most alarming issue here isn't Meghan's anger. Emotional reactions are not enough to condemn or absolve anyone. The crux of the matter is this: if she truly possessed verifiable proof of childbirth, even a single basic medical document, this entire dispute could have ended in that very room. But her inability or refusal to present such proof has escalated the situation beyond containment. The issue is no longer a private family matter. It has evolved into a full-blown crisis of trust: who is actually holding the truth? And Meghan, the woman once hailed as a breath of fresh air for the royal family, may now be distorting reality, not with facts, but with the versions of the story she believes the public wants to hear, rather than what truly happened. 2. Fractures in a story that's nearly impossible to verify. When Meghan Markle first appeared publicly with a baby bump in 2018, she was met with everything the world could offer: expectation, sympathy, and endless praise. For the first time in British royal history, a woman of color had entered the monarchy pregnant with a child of Windsor blood. But that very moment marked the beginning of the first fractures in what seemed to be a perfect narrative, subtle yet undeniable to anyone observant enough to notice. A flood of photos showing Meghan pregnant began circulating in the media, and along with them came a wave of questions that couldn't be ignored. Why did the shape of her baby bump change so frequently and unnaturally? In some pictures, her belly appeared full and rounded. Yet only a few days later, in nearly identical outfits, her bump looked smaller or shifted to one side. This sparked widespread scrutiny, with online users and image analysts comparing footage, compiling side-by-side videos, and crafting theories that refused to die down, including the controversial claim that Meghan may have used a prosthetic belly to mislead the media. The climax of this suspicion was a video showing her bending down to pick up an object where her baby bump seemed to shift awkwardly in a manner inconsistent with natural pregnancy movement, something many mothers found odd and implausible. Compounding the mystery, Meghan firmly refused to give birth at St. Mary's Hospital, the very place where Princess Diana and later Kate Middleton delivered royal heirs. Her stated reason was a desire for privacy and the freedom to choose a location where she felt most comfortable. Yet the public found it puzzling: as a royal family member carrying the seventh in line to the throne, why opt out of a medically supervised, highly standardized birthing process that had guaranteed safety for generations? Why choose to give birth quietly at a private hospital, forbidding any media coverage, with no presence of official medical staff and not a single recorded image from the delivery room, only a post-birth photo at Windsor Castle with Harry holding a tightly swaddled infant in a white blanket, concealing everything from head to toe? The situation grew harder to justify when no official birth documentation was ever made public. In contrast to previous royal births, which released transparent details from the doctor's name and place of birth to administrative specifics, Archie's birth certificate appeared only as a blurry reproduction riddled with inconsistencies. At one point, it even mistakenly listed Meghan's nationality. Independent journalists attempted to contact the private hospital where Meghan claimed to have delivered, hoping to verify the information, but the facility declined to comment, citing patient confidentiality. Yet the public was left with one pressing question: if everything was true, why does no trace of it seem to exist? Beyond the missing visuals and documents, Meghan added fuel to the fire during her explosive 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey. She stated that her son, Archie, was denied a royal title because of his skin color. The claim sent shockwaves around the world. However, experts in royal protocol immediately pushed back, explaining that under current law, only the direct grandchildren of the reigning monarch automatically receive prince or princess titles. At that time, Queen Elizabeth II was still on the throne, and Archie as a great-grandchild did not qualify unless a special decree was issued. So, the question remains, did Meghan misunderstand royal customs, or did she deliberately distort the truth, casting herself as the victim of a racially charged injustice? On other occasions, Meghan asserted that she had been isolated during her pregnancy, lacking psychological support, and even confessed to contemplating ending her life. But in all these interviews, she never cited a specific time frame, a particular doctor, or any medical records related to her mental state during pregnancy. Her accounts revolved around intuition, personal memories, and feelings of pain, all difficult to verify, yet emotionally potent enough to sway public sentiment. Could this be the strategy of someone who knows exactly how the public responds to heartbreaking stories? The doubt grew deeper as Meghan consistently evaded direct questions about what should have been straightforward details, the exact birth date, the baby's birth weight, or what it felt like to go into labor for the first time. Her descriptions of pregnancy and childbirth lacked any mention of physiological symptoms, none of the raw authenticity most women vividly recall from their own experiences. Instead, Meghan repeated polished phrases like a miracle, a sacred blessing, and complete happiness, sounding more like brand messaging than the candid voice of a real mother. Perhaps Meghan never imagined that the story she shared with such sincerity and emotion would one day be unraveled by cold skepticism, but that is precisely what's happening. As the public began spotting inconsistencies, they shifted from trust to scrutiny. And once the royal family, the most notoriously tight-lipped institution in the world, began asking questions, this ceased to be a whisper campaign. It became a constitutional crisis. Because if Meghan's story about childbirth is not entirely true, or worse, fabricated, it wouldn't just shatter public trust. It could disrupt the laws of royal succession, national citizenship regulations, and above all, the people's loyalty to the constitutional monarchy itself. No one is offering definitive conclusions here, but the questions remain demanding real answers. If Meghan truly gave birth, why is all the evidence so faint? If she has nothing to hide, why not clear it up from the beginning? And if not her, then who is behind the baffling decisions, the photos that spark endless debate, and the narratives no one seems able to verify to the end? 3. Life after the doubt. No one could have imagined that the woman once celebrated amid thunderous applause, once hailed as the shining icon of a new era, would so quickly find herself in a state of near-complete isolation. And yet that is precisely what is happening to Meghan Markle, when the one story that should have been the most simple and self-evident, the story of giving birth, has become the cold blade slicing through the very foundation of trust she spent years carefully building. This crisis goes far beyond personal damage or wounded pride. It's now casting a long and direct shadow over everything Meghan once carefully managed, from her personal finances and public image to strategic alliances with major corporations. When King Charles issued a temporary directive suspending financial support and severing all official ties with Meghan, it stripped away the legal protections that had once shielded her from tax exemptions and media image control to personal security benefits in the United States. Without recognition as a beneficiary of royal privileges, Meghan now faces the full weight of U.S. tax law, where every dollar earned from personal branding deals to exclusive sponsorships and private investments is subject to strict oversight with no special treatment. Even Meghan's once mighty financial fortress has begun to show cracks. The Archewell Foundation, the philanthropic brainchild she co-founded with Harry, has seen key donors demand a freeze on funding until public concerns are resolved. Among them is a prominent Silicon Valley tech fund that had previously injected over $5 million into Archewell's community campaigns. Behind the scenes, media giants like Netflix and Spotify, though silent publicly, have quietly frozen or postponed projects involving Meghan. Notably, they haven't criticized her, but neither have they defended her. This silence speaks louder than words, signaling a calculated withdrawal designed to avoid getting dragged into a scandal that may spiral beyond control. It's not just about frozen assets. Meghan now faces the very real risk of defaulting on obligations. According to a report from an independent media firm, she has received advance payments totaling more than $12 million from yet-to-be-completed deals, including a children's book publishing contract, a special television feature, and 2 major fashion endorsement campaigns. With those projects now indefinitely postponed or potentially canceled, her partners are legally entitled to demand full reimbursement. And unlike before, she no longer has royal financial backing to fall back on. Mounting legal fees, the costs of maintaining a private security team, media management expenses, it's all becoming a heavy burden. And when her personal brand, once her strongest asset, is now eroding by the day, Meghan is left with almost no defense against a crisis stacking higher with every headline. But perhaps the greatest tragedy Meghan faces isn't the loss of money, it's the loss of public trust. Once all it took was a teary interview, an inspiring anecdote, or a dreamy family photo on Instagram to reshape public opinion. This time, those tactics no longer work. The public now asks if she can't prove she ever gave birth to Archie. How can we believe anything else she says? Doubt has spread not just among her longtime critics, but now even among those who once championed her. Admiration has turned to hesitation, hesitation to suspicion, and from suspicion, many have quietly turned away. Even outlets once openly supportive of Meghan, like People The Cut and even Vogue US, have begun covering her in a noticeably more neutral, even cautious tone. A commentary in The Atlantic written by a journalist who previously defended Meghan bluntly stated, "We respected her candor and strength, but we can't ignore how she continues to sidestep the most basic questions." The media war Meghan once dominated with ease has now become a brutal battlefield, because this time she's not just fending off old adversaries, she's struggling to keep her allies from walking away. Amid the turmoil, ROYAL, the very arm of humanitarian work that once uplifted Meghan's image, has become a glaring vulnerability. As public trust wanes, partner organizations are demanding full audits and transparent financial disclosures. Sources inside ROYAL reveal the foundation is depleting funds rapidly, with most of its budget consumed by administrative and media expenses, while new donations have plummeted. As a result, numerous events planned across the US and Canada have been canceled or drastically downsized. Nonprofit finance analysts warn that if this downward spiral continues, ROYAL may be forced to dissolve or hand over operational control to a third party in a last-ditch effort to salvage its crumbling reputation. Then there's the personal toll. A former member of Meghan's media team disclosed that she's been suffering from prolonged insomnia, work disruptions, and increasingly avoids press inquiries altogether. This starkly contrasts with the once vibrant Meghan, who dominated media headlines with confident messaging and perfectly curated imagery. Now her silence is no longer a tactic, it's the unmistakable symptom of helplessness. For someone who once controlled every word, every frame being pushed into a reactive stance, too uncertain to even speak up, is proof she's losing the fight on her own battlefield. Meanwhile, Harry, who had once stood by her through every storm, has fallen into a strange silence of his own. No public statements defending his wife. No joint appearances with Meghan at recent events. Some tabloids have been quick to ask, has Harry started to question everything too? While nothing official has been confirmed, even the faintest image of emotional or physical distance is enough to convince the public that Meghan may be losing not just her connection to the world, but to the person closest to her. And so one final question begins to take shape in everyone's mind. Could everything Meghan has built her image as a devoted mother, a sacrificial wife, a resilient woman of color in a conservative institution have been a carefully crafted illusion all along? If the simplest and most primal thing, giving birth, cannot be substantiated, then what percentage of the more complex stories about racism, depression, and royal pressure still hold any truth at all? 4. The shocking hypothesis. A theory once dismissed as absurd, extreme, and confined to conspiracy forums has now unexpectedly returned, this time as a serious focal point in media investigations and public discourse. The claim that Meghan Markle never actually carried a pregnancy, that Archie Mountbatten Windsor, the child publicly presented as her, and Prince Harry's son, may not have been born by Meghan at all. And if this turns out to be true or even partially verifiable, then the entire narrative of maternal devotion, the public empathy Meghan once cultivated, and the media power she has wielded in recent years would collapse in an instant. What's striking is that this theory didn't originate from Meghan's staunch critics. Quite the opposite, it began among longtime followers who had closely observed her journey since joining the royal family. They noticed subtle inconsistencies in photographs and behaviors. Meghan was seen with a visibly pregnant belly that appeared to change shape dramatically within just days, sometimes unusually large, then curiously smaller. In one video clip capturing her bending into a car, her belly seemed to fold unnaturally, something any experienced mother would find biologically implausible. While not hard evidence, such moments were the first red flags to ignite speculation. Mainstream media long turned a blind eye to these suspicions, but once independent investigators began to dig and social media platforms like Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube became saturated with photo analyses, video frame breakdowns, and timelines of Meghan's appearances, the fire of doubt spread rapidly like flames across dry brush. Even those who had mocked the theory as nonsense found themselves haunted by one chilling truth: no one has proven otherwise. There is no photograph of Meghan leaving a hospital with Archie in her arms, a tradition carried out publicly by Princess Diana and Kate Middleton. No medical professional has ever gone on record to say they delivered her child. Archie's birth certificate omits the hospital name. Independent journalists tried tracing records from the private hospitals rumored to be the place of birth, but none confirmed her admission. If this was all for privacy, that very shield of secrecy has now become a vacuum one that suspicion readily fills. Another troubling detail: Meghan's reactions whenever asked about her pregnancy journey. In interviews, she consistently dodged or deflected, resorting to vague responses like, "It was an emotional journey," or "I'm grateful to be a mother." Never once did she recount specific moments, no mention of labor pains, no memory of hearing Archie's first cry, no intimate anecdotes that every mother cherishes. Even in her bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey, where she laid bare stories of racism, suicidal thoughts, and mental health, her discussion of pregnancy was noticeably absent. Oprah didn't press. Meghan didn't elaborate. Even more curious, there is not a single documented piece of footage chronicling Meghan's pregnancy journey, despite the fact that she and Harry signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Netflix to produce documentaries about their lives. From their proposal wedding to the South Africa tour, there's footage of everything. And yet the pregnancy, a monumental event, has no video, no diary, no visual trace. It begs the question many now ask: was there simply nothing to film? The most circulated theory online is that Meghan used a surrogate, but in an effort to preserve the image of a traditional royal mother and to extract maximum public sympathy, she allegedly chose to conceal it. Others go further, suggesting the entire ordeal may have been scripted, including doubts about whether the child is biologically hers. These are extreme claims lacking concrete evidence, but it is Meghan's own refusal to be transparent that allows them to gain traction. Several international journalists attempting to access Archie's civil records could only obtain a copy that excluded the mother's name at the time of birth. A US-based human rights attorney commented, "Keeping personal medical information private is legally protected, but if you are a public figure leveraging a birth story for social influence and branding, you also carry a proportional responsibility for transparency." In other words, Meghan cannot simultaneously ask for public empathy as a mother while refusing to confirm she was one. Another hypothesis has surfaced that Meghan may have once been pregnant, but lost the baby, then quietly continued the story through the media. If that were true, the issue would transcend privacy and enter the realm of emotional manipulation. Meghan earned vast public sympathy, lucrative contracts, and a dominant voice in global conversations about justice and race, fueled by the collective compassion of millions who believed in her as a young mother. The most disturbing and unresolved question still hangs in the air. If Meghan did not give birth to Archie, what does it all mean? Was it just image building, a calculated political strategy, or simply a secret too complicated to tell, bound by emotional, legal, or strategic constraints? And if a truth is buried for too long, will it eventually find a way to erupt? To date, there is no formal evidence proving Meghan did not give birth. But equally, there is no verifiable documentation proving she did. That silence, that absence is precisely the void where doubt, anger, and a growing sense of betrayal are beginning to bloom in the public consciousness. No one is rushing to accuse or convict, but everyone has the right to ask, why are the simplest things a photo, a medical record, a hospital confirmation nowhere to be found? Why does Meghan, a vocal advocate for justice, go silent when asked to clarify something as basic as childbirth? And if that silence is in fact a camouflage for truth, how many more times must we be misled before we finally wake up? Once hailed as a transformative icon poised to redefine the monarchy, Meghan Markle now finds herself at the center of deep, unsettling doubt that stretches beyond reputation and into the very core of her identity. Even those who once staunchly defended her are struggling to dismiss a fundamental truth if a woman has truly given birth. Providing proof should be the simplest thing in the world. So why, after all these years, has Meghan never done so? Is this the resilience of someone hardened by relentless scrutiny masked in tears? Or is Meghan a casualty of a power game far bigger than herself? The final answer remains elusive. But one thing is clear. Silence is no longer a shield strong enough to withstand the rising tide. And if a single child-related doubt has the power to shake an entire media empire built with precision and intent, then whether Meghan is guilty or not, she now faces the steepest price of all losing control of her own narrative. What do you think? Is Meghan a woman swept up in a merciless machine or a calculated media strategist playing a long game? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We welcome bold, honest debate. If this video gave you a deeper perspective, don't forget to hit like to support the channel. Subscribe now so you never miss our next deep dive into the world of media power and the truths hidden behind the curtain. Turn on the notification bell because the biggest secrets wait for no one. See you in the next video where the truth lies, not in what's said, but in what was never allowed to be spoken.